Hi there, and welcome to the Projects Distilled YouTube channel where we talk about all things project management. In this video, we are going to continue our discussion on how to use artificial intelligence tools to assist us as project managers. Specifically, we're going to look at ChatGPT and Google Bard as it relates to managing project risk. I've developed 4 tests to help us assess which tool is better for managing risk. The first way we're going to test these tools is to see how well they help us to identify risk. Next, we're going to test how well they help us assess the severity of the risk. Next, we're going to look at how they help us address risk. Finally, we're going to look at how they can help us report out on the risk related to our project. Let's begin. To run appropriate tests to determine how well these tools do in helping us find and deal with risk, we have to first give it some information. So I've taken a list of 19 tasks that are associated with a project to move end users from Microsoft Office Suite to Google Workspace. This is a list that we generated in a previous video that ChatGPT actually helped us to develop, and I'm using it here to set the context for what the project is trying to accomplish. So with that information fed into ChatGPT, this is what it came back with. You can see that it has identified the risk of change or resistance to change as the #1 risk. And I would tend to agree with that. People don't like change. That's the people element of it. But it's also identified 9 other risks too. So it's a nice complete list of 10. There's vendor risk in there. There's technical risk. There's integration risk. There's a whole set of things that I think should be looked at. So this is a good starting place for our list of risks. Now let's see what Bard comes back with. So we fed Bard the same initial list, and it came back with 5 risks. You can see the #1 risk that it identified is also resistance to change. So clearly this has a large enablement factor in it where we have to make sure that we do for our end users everything we can to help them to make that change. But it also identified some data loss issues. It also identified some vendor risk, especially around lock-in. So it has an interesting take on them. When you compare the two, though, ChatGPT gave us a much more complete list of risks. So in this challenge, helping us to identify risk, ChatGPT is the winner. Let's move on to our next. So I've asked ChatGPT to give me a table of risks with the impact and the likelihood in that table for each of the 10 risks that it identified. So here's what it came back with. It looks pretty good. It has put it in the table exactly the way that I would expect. It's got resistance to change as high. I've noticed in here there's really only one low entry, so it's rating all of the risk as relatively high. We would want to make sure and use our best project management judgment to make sure that it has made those assessments properly. But this is a great starting place for just a few seconds of work. Let's see how Bard does. So I asked Bard to do the exact same thing. It was a cut and paste instruction, and it got the likelihood of the event happening, the risk happening, correct in that it labeled it low, medium, high. But for impact, it's a written sentence. I was looking for something more to what ChatGPT gave me, which is just a simple word, because then you can do some matrices and assign some categories for the actual value of that risk. I can't do that with what Bard has given us. So the winner for this round is going to be ChatGPT. It gave me exactly what I was asking for. Moving on, we're going to look at how each of these tools now addresses the risk, meaning how does it suggest that we mitigate the risk should the risk manifest. Let's see how they do. So once again, given instructions to add a mitigation column, ChatGPT gave me exactly what I was looking for. Another column was added with ideas and suggestions for mitigation. Now those mitigation ideas are not fully fleshed out. We're going to get to that in the final test that we give these, but for now, it's given me what I've asked for. Let's see what Google Bard gave us. So you can see from Bard's output that it has just simply lost its mind. I asked for it to be in a table. It put it into some kind of a very poorly formatted table. If I cut and pasted it into something else and played around with it for a while, I could get it into a table. But right now, as a tool, it's almost unusable. I asked for it to do it again just to see if I can change the instructions and get it to actually produce the table. It gave me virtually the same thing. So Bard did not understand the assignment. In terms of winners for this contest, clearly ChatGPT wins again. Let's move on to our last challenge, which is reporting out on risk. And for this, I'm going to ask each tool to generate an actual business style report explaining the risk in a way that our stakeholders could understand. And I'm going to ask it to provide additional detail around the mitigations for the risk and kind of blow it out from where it was in the tables. Let's see how they do. So as you can see, ChatGPT responded brilliantly to the challenge. It gave us an executive summary. It provided additional details. It called it out. It's in a really natural language type of format. And it did give a little bit more detail around each of the mitigation plans. Not as much as I'd like, but that's something that we can do as project managers to flesh that out. But it gave us a very nice report format that we could theoretically cut and paste and use it in a project document of some sort. Let's see if Bard is up to the challenge. So Bard did issue us more of a natural language type of report. It still did not assign impact into a one-word type of answer. It blew it out a little bit, which is okay, but not quite what I was looking for. And it did provide some mitigation strategies. Overall, though, if you look at this report versus the ChatGPT report, it is pretty anemic. There's going to be a lot more human intervention that we're going to have to do with the Bard report. So the winner of our risk assessment, risk management bake-off between ChatGPT and Bard is, of course, ChatGPT. It swept Bard off the map. It's a much better tool at this point. We understand that Bard is newer to the marketplace. We also understand that ChatGPT has been learning and growing really rapidly. That's what these artificial intelligence engines do. I expect that Bard will do the same thing. But as of right now, ChatGPT has a pretty big lead, in my opinion. That is my recommendation. If you're going to use one of these tools as a project assistant, go ahead and use ChatGPT. It's got better abilities, more depth. It understands the commands that you give it better than Google Bard. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much.